Good. Hello, everyone. Thanks for watching another Palmistry Sunday case study. This week, I'll be looking at the hands of Lewis Hamilton. Now, I have here one very clear image of his right hand, and from this, I'm going to determine a great deal. I'm going to talk on his potential for winning next year, as well as a potentially traumatic future event in his life. When you become accustomed to the art and science of reading the hands, the first thing that stands out to you when you look at a palm stands out for a reason. And one of those things for me was the angle of time, sometimes known as the angle of proficiency on the back of his thumb here. Timing is a developed skill. But the other thing I noticed is the long, strong, well-balanced and wilting appearance of the thumb, as well as the Jupiter finger. Just look at the overall width, strength, the length of it, the straightness of it. This person's sense of their self is very well developed. His ego, his ambition, his sense of confidence and self-assuredness is really strong. And this is always a sign of someone who's been brought up by both parents, encouraging and nurturing these qualities of confidence and self-esteem. Before I get into the specifics of the fingers, the overall shape of the hand here is it's an air hand. Certainly, we've got an overall kind of squarish palm, and the fingers are long. The thumb, as I say, is quite heavy, is quite long, and the Jupiter mount, sits fairly high up on the palm. The heel of the palm's quite low down, and it kind of pulls the heel of the palm down with a very sort of strong watery element. That makes sense. He was born in January. And so the palm's appearance kind of has this kind of diamond sort of shape appearance to it. So what we have here is a dynamic hand with elements of analytical to it. The fingers are on the long side for the average dynamic hand, and most dynamic hand owners are women. Dynamic hands are always incredibly hard-working, active, but this is also someone who's a deep thinker and introspective. The overall shape of his fingertips are certainly of note because something of a conic one on Mercury, but they're rounded. But also notice the droplet formation seen by the impression of the shadows here, and this shows this extra sense of sensitivity, as well as the rounded nature of the finger shows us someone who's able to think in the moment and respond quickly. And this is always seen on the hands of racing car drivers. And, being an overall air hand, in another life, Lewis Hamilton would have made a superb jet fighter pilot, an ace of the skies. Although he is very able to use his quick thinking in the moment, act in the moment. It's not to say that this is someone who gets a thrill out of, he's not an adrenaline junkie. It's not someone who enjoys taking a risk. He's actually very measured. So to see these two in conjunction with each other, this ability to, um, you know, uh, utilize muscle memory and responsiveness is not always seen with someone who has a lifeline joined to the headline for such a long time. So there's a certain amount of caution and measured approach at the same time as being someone who's very quick. So the fingers themselves, as I say, I've already spoken a little bit about Jupiter, but notice how it sort of stands upright on the palm, and it almost looks to sort of guide the rest of the fingers. It pulls the palm upright. So all things Jupiterian guide and steer this person and drive this person. Ambition, authority, judgment, their sense of their self, but also their decision-making abilities. These have all been cultivated and developed, strengthened. Some of the negative aspects of Jupiter are also, as I've mentioned, the potential negatives in someone's ego, but also that controlling and dominant behavior. Now, someone in the field that he is in, there is a need to control. There's a need to be dominant because what's the point in racing if the overall goal is not to win? Now, the Apollo finger is long. The tip of Apollo reaches past the halfway of the first tip of Saturn, and it's also slightly lower set, so we know we have certainly a long Apollo finger. It splays slightly outwards as it reaches the end. It's almost spatulate, and there is something of a kind of a pinched-in second phalanx here as well. So we know that reputation and glory matter greatly to this person. Fame, essentially. And the fact that we have Apollo and Jupiter being so level with each other is one of the signs in fame in palmistry, because his idea of himself and his abilities are in line with each other. He has a realistic idea of what he's capable of. This pinched-in second phalanx shows us someone who is a nitpicker, has a critical eye for detail, and probably gets into arguments over the smallest things, splits hairs. But this eye for detail is also what enables him actually splitting a hair probably matters in driving such a vast and powerful machine where every single thing matters. I mean, quite literally, a hair in the wrong place might lose you a race. Now, check out the Mercury finger. It's low set as a common feature of dynamic hands, but it is certainly long. When you measure the length of the Mercury finger against the Apollo finger, it's certainly a long little finger, but it's set apart from the rest of the fingers. And there's something of a pointed tip to Mercury. And on all these features, really, this is technically a composite hand, but there's more dynamic than anything else. It's dynamic with a touch of analytical, the hand type mixtures here. And if you want to know more about my hand types, I've kind of pinched these from the late great David Brandon Jones, my mentor's mentor. Have a look on my website, on my blog, and I've also created a video on the 12 hand types. So what this shows us, the low set Mercury shows us an inability to articulate emotions. The wide set Mercury finger shows us that he is not someone who's going to be confined by the traditional sort of responsibilities and burdens of a relationship. He needs his freedom, but the length and strength of the Mercury finger, because it is quite wide as well for a little finger, it shows us he has actually very capable, expressive abilities to show his personal truth, his message with physicality and energy and effort. The somewhat sort of pointed tip to Mercury shows us that, sharp-tipped Mercury finger shows us a sharp tongue. It shows us a cunning mind, sharpness of mind. Sorry about that. I must have voice commanded my little camera by accident. He is quick thinking. Again, another aspect of this quickness of mind, shrewd cunning. Now, moving on to the thumb, there's a lot to be said about the thumb. It's common in so much as in the dynamic hand, it's quite high set, and so he is self-concerned. But it is long, it's well balanced, because both will and logic are of an even length. There is, of course, a dramatic angle of time, otherwise known as angle of proficiency. There's also an eye of Ganesh here, said to be a mark of someone who was kind to animals in a past life, essentially a mark of good karma. Now, the flexed thumb here shows us several things. It's a sign of someone who likes to get behind an ethical cause, motivated to get behind um, moral issues. It's a mark of a charitable person, but it's also a mark of someone who is the fact that it tapers to something of a point and flexes out like this. Someone who works tremendously hard in bursts, and then after this needs a bit of a catnap. And also it's a mark of the fine kind of point here, a mark of refined tastes, He's a big spender. The flexibility of the willpower here shows us the fluidity of mood. This is potentially a sign of someone who, I don't want to say mood swings, but can move from one mood to another very quickly. Temperamental. There we go. I found the word. But also his will is potentially fluid. And we know that Lewis Hamilton has skipped, not skipped, but moved from team to team. He's not going to stay with a team if he doesn't think he can win. And his currency is reputation. So his will can be flexed with the right currency, and that is reputation, glory, fame. I'm going to have to turn that voice command thing off. We know that his language is reputation because of what we've seen in the Apollo finger. Now, we've covered the chirognomy, that is all things shape of the hands and fingers. Now we're going to move into the lines of the hands, the chirology or chiromancy, as it's sometimes referred to. The headline is long, not something I was expecting to see because the length of a headline shows us someone who's thinking ahead. I was expecting to see someone who was thinking of nothing but in the moment. But actually, we see someone who is a deep thinker and analytical and is constantly thinking about the future. But what's really interesting about the headline is the length of it here, reaching almost the other side of the palm completely, shows us someone who's influencing others by their actions. That's certainly a sign of that. But the curvature, the overall curvature of the headline is a sign of someone who's adaptable, flexible, creative. And the way that it flicks upwards, I mean, this is really quite telling. It flicks upwards in precisely the moment of the area of muscle memory. Once again, enhancing this ability to adapt, respond, and react in the moment. But what I find really interesting here, and it's a kind of a byproduct of this, is that it kind of expands the space of outer Mars. Outer Mars is a place of strategy, tactics, endurance, and resistance. Being the right hand here, these are traits that have been developed. There is a greater capacity for all of these things. And as I say, the length of the headline, this person is someone who's thinking ahead. He is strategic. He's always looking ahead at the same time as relying on deeply ingrained uh, memories embedded in his own muscles, muscle memory. So not only is outer Mars well developed and there's a clear space for a clarity here, but inner Mars is also actually overdeveloped. So what we have here is drive motivation. This is the tank of motivation, and it fuels his need to succeed and achieve. And we can see here an ambition line that rises up, or at least it looks to be an ambition line that rises upwards at a very young age, something around 12. However, could be wrong about this because I have another interpretation as to what this means right here, this horizontal obstructing line right here. And so I'm going to cover what that means shortly. But just look at how pronounced, and obviously this is partly the thumb and the gesture in which his hand is being shown in this image here, but there is a tremendous resource here of anger and determination. And this really is that fuel that I've mentioned. So the key components of this person's personality are Jupiter and inner Mars. And it's all sort of propped up by his, will and overall determination and character. So I find, this overall area of the hand really interesting. And as I say, the thumb being so leaning in so closely, he's very self-concerned. He's he's look he's looking to better himself. Now, taking a look at the fate line, sometimes known as the duty, destiny line, career line, money line even. It stems from the lifeline itself, and this is always a sign of someone who is in a career path or journey of some sort that requires literal life force, energy. I find the curvature of this line fascinating because it shows this person's destiny, their path in life is moving towards an area of expertise and authority. He's he's moving towards being a master in his field, where everybody is looking up to him. Now, a really lovely sign here is this tremendous loyalty line here, and it doesn't work to where it doesn't touch the lifeline. It stays neatly inside. It's nice and strong. And this really shows us his love for his mother in particular. And you can see this line here encouraging. I'm not going to say it's completely influences because it's a testament to his own abilities and character as well. The fate line, look at how it sort of encourages the fate line at this time. Now, this is early 20s, early to mid 20s here. And from this time onwards, you can see a sort of flip away towards outer Mars. As I've mentioned, it's the place of strategy, planning, securing the future. Now, it was at this time, at the age of what would he have been, 23, I believe. Um, Lewis Hamilton became the then youngest Formula One champion, and he secured his future. The road ahead looked so much stronger from this point onwards for this person. Now, I can appreciate, being that we're so tremendously zoomed in at this point, it's very blurry, but there is something of a switch in the fate line here, um, a potential kind of overlap, and it shows that he's switching team, I believe, shortly after this time. I don't really know all that much about him or Formula One, but what I find particularly interesting is this just here, and you have to look closely, but there is something of it happening again right here, and there's another overlap just here. And where we see this kind of looking to nourish and enhance the sun line, this takes place at the age of 40. So what I believe occurs here, just going back to the early 20s, you can see how this enriches the roots of success as well, sort of hinting at it. But it happens again here at the age of 40. It's the exact same thing. So my prediction is 2025 will win the championship next year for Ferrari. That is my prediction. I'm so convinced I'm actually going to put money on it. You can see the switch here. You can see the strength in the career line, the fulfillment this brings in both life as well as monetarily. But this is not everything. For Lewis Hamilton, reputation is all. Now, the other prediction I'm going to make about Lewis Hamilton is not nearly as positive. What I find a little bit disturbing is that the fates line kind of wisps out into a fine hair of nothingness as it reaches the age of 53 to 56. Um, I'm not entirely certain about the age here, but it's around about this age. And I'm coming back to what I've mentioned, this obstacle that I've seen here that crosses the sun mount. It's an obstacle in the way of this person achieving their success and happiness, and for this person, glory as an overall importance in life. And it crosses their heart line and impacts on their potential physical health. And you can see it kind of reaching downwards. And this is my second interpretation of what this line means. I'm in two minds as to whether or not this is an ambition line connected with this obstacle. And it would make sense if that's the case. It could be one, it could be both. This could be an ambition line as well as this being some sort of physical obstacle that's disabling this person's ambition. That began at the age of around about 12. The other thing I've noticed here is not only is the fate line barred by this potential physical event, we have a cross just up here as well, just underneath the Saturn finger, and it looks to sort of spell the end of the fate line. It's not a good sign. You can kind of see it a little bit more clearly when you zoom out a little bit. But what this is a potential sign of an error in judgment that results in a physical, impactful event that looks to bar the progress of success and happiness and his overall path in life. And also notice at this time, the lifeline appears to become very faint. It's it's not a good sign. It's a sign of potential threat to this person's life force itself. So I'm not saying that this is a surefire sign of his life ending at this time. It could just be that he's in hospital for a spell. It could be that he's physically, um, you know, affected forever after this time. It also could well be the end of his life at this time. It could be a crash of some sort. It could just be an accident. It might be some sort of unrelated, accident. It might not be anything to do with racing at all. 53 to 56, fairly old to be racing still. So it's not altogether a good sign. However, if Lewis Hamilton were to die at this age, that's young. And those who live fast die young. And not only would that secure his place in the history books as a legend, that's kind of what he's always wanted. So that wouldn't be an altogether terrible thing, I don't think. And, he has lived a very full life, I would have hoped by that time. Now, I hope I'm completely wrong about that, because that would mean that he's not going to live all that long at all. And I get the sense this person is actually a really nice guy from looking at his hands. So I really do hope I am wrong about that. However, I do hope I'm right about next year, and I believe I am. So I'm going to put some money down on that, which actually I don't gamble. So yeah, that's rare for me. So let me know what your thoughts are on this reading. I'm curious to know if you've enjoyed this reading and if you've learned anything, as well as anything I might well have missed. And also, please do let me know who you'd like me to read the hands of next Sunday. I read the palms of celebrities every Sunday, as well as reading the palms of anyone. You're welcome to book a private palm reading with me if you go to my website. So thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.